Hi everybody, it's Lori here today to open the vlog for the week where we are going to focus on my 5-star predictions. So I thought it would be fun to find some books that I thought would be a 5-star prediction for me, something that I'm really looking forward to reading that contain female main characters. I didn't think it would be that hard because that's what I tend to gravitate towards anyway, and I was able to compile a list of 4 books that I am super excited about. Not sure they'll all be 5 stars, we'll see, but that's okay. They don't have to be all 5-star. I just thought it would be kind of fun to pick up some predict my 5-star ratings based on just the synopsis of the book and see if I've read anything from them before. There are 2 authors that I've read from before and 2 that I haven't. So I thought that would be kind of fun. We'll see if I have any DNFs. As you know, we're going to pick a book off of my TBR shelf, library TBR shelf, something that I have physically that I've ordered from the library, and we'll read that instead. So you'll want to see if any of these get kicked to the curb, if they're just not working for me and I want to do some mood reading from my shelf. So let's talk about the books that I have on tap to read this week. The first one is The Invisible Library by Genevieve, is it Cogman? This to me sounds a little bit fantasy, right? We have Irene, who's a spy for the library, which is a professional organization. She goes all over time and different dimensions, I believe, different worlds, looking for rare books. It sounds right up my alley, so I'm excited to give this one a try. I do know that it's a series, seems like a long-running series, so I'm excited to dive into this one. The next one, I have not tried anything from this author either, but I've heard it talked about lovingly on booktube here. It is A Natural History of Dragons, a memoir by Lady Trent. This is another fantasy, but I do love dragons. Thought it would be kind of cool. This book talks about Lady Trent looking back on her life and her studying dragons throughout the years. I know this is also a series. I think there are 5 books in this one. Very excited to get going. Like I said, it's a much beloved series, and I have been looking forward to picking this one up for quite some time. On to the next 2 authors that I have tried in the past. Now, the first book that I read by this particular author was okay. I mean, I think I gave it a 3-star. It was an okay read. I thought it was a little zany for me and wasn't exactly something I was in the mood for at that particular moment. This is a totally different book written by this author, and I don't believe it's a series. So I thought I would give it a try. It sounds kind of fun. This is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. This sounds so cute. We have Vera here, who owns a tea shop in Chinatown in the San Francisco Bay Area. She's struggling for customers, and to her delight, when a new one shows up, she realizes, oh my gosh, it's a dead body. So she needs to investigate. She doesn't think the police are doing a good job. So she jumps in and starts to investigate. It sounds a lot of fun. We'll see if it's as zany and quirky as the Dial A for Auntie series that I was kind of iffy about. So we'll see how I feel about this one, but I'm hearing really good things. And the last book that I have picked up for the week might be a little bit of a cheat because I'm pretty sure I'm going to give this a 5-star, but you just never know. Might not be one of my favorites. We'll see. But it is the second book in the Wayward Children series by Shauna McGuire, Down Among the Sticks and Bones. So this one covers the backstory of Jack and Jill when they visit their portal world and everything that happens there. Talked about them a little bit, quite a bit actually, in the first book. So I'm interested in learning more about their time in the moors, which is where they end up going. So those are my 4 books for the week. I am super excited. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that they will all be 5 stars. I'm not sure that they all will be, but we'll see. The anticipation is building. I'm excited to dive into the first book, which is going to be, I'm going to start with Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. Long title. So I will check back in with you as I read through this book. Doing a check-in here on Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. I have really been enjoying it. I'm about halfway in to this book, and I just love Vera so much. I know she comes across as a little bit of a interfering busybody, but I feel like her heart is in the right place. We have Vera who's trying to hold on to her tea shop, even though she really doesn't have very many customers. From what I can gather, I think she only has 1 customer, so that is kind of a concern, but she's known for brewing the best teas for the best situations, and her customer absolutely loves her, but she finds herself with a lot of time on her hands. And because she's a good Chinese mother, she wakes up at exactly, I think it's 5 a.m., 4 a.m., could be. Oh my goodness. Her eyes pop open. She leaps up out of bed, starts her day early, takes an invigorating walk, takes care of herself, tries to take care of her son as well. But she's a little interfering. He probably feels like doesn't always pick up her calls or answer her text messages. She's looking for him to find a girlfriend, a wife, give her grandchildren, and all of those things. Her husband has previously passed, and so it's basically her running this tea shop, and she needs something to do. Well, next thing you know, a dead body shows up in her tea room. She watches the police and is not really convinced that they know what they're doing. And of course, she does. She knows exactly what she's doing and what they should have done. They haven't dusted for fingerprints, nor have they looked for DNA. They seem to want to write this off as just an accidental death, and she's not having it. She starts to investigate on her own, and when she sees people showing up to kind of peer through the windows, see what's going on in the tea shop, she starts to suspect them because don't all murderers return to the scene of the crime? She starts enveloping this small group of people into her orbit and kind of insinuating herself into their lives so that she can determine who actually was the murderer. She considers them all suspects. She wants to keep them very close to her. She keeps tabs on them. She is just a force of nature, and they are they are compelled to allow her into their lives. So this is so cute so far. I'm really enjoying it. I don't want any of them to be the murderer, quite frankly. They all seem adorable in their own ways, and Vera with them. The descriptions of the food that she makes for them is just outstanding. I'm loving it so far. I'm just, like I said, I'm nervous. I don't know who the murderer is going to be. I just don't want it to be any of the four, so we'll see how it all wraps up. I have finished Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, and I absolutely loved this book. This reminds me of the same feeling that I got when I read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Similarly long title anyway, but no. I loved that book. It made me so happy, warm and squishy inside, like marshmallows. Same thing with this one. I highly recommend this book. If you enjoyed that one, I think you will enjoy this. One is more of a fantasy and this is more of a mystery, but the feelings that it evokes, I would say, are very similar. And the tropes of having a found family definitely are at play here. I will say that somehow we have managed to have a satisfactory ending that didn't upset me, that also makes sense in the way that this mystery unfolded. I can't give any kind of spoilers, and I'm not going to, but I was happy with the ending and how all this came together. I've got the light coming in shining on the library edition here. Yeah, I was very happy with how all of this came together. I wish that this was going to be a series. I like this much better than the Dial A for Auntie series that the same author already has. I like this one so much better. And so I wish, maybe, fingers crossed. I know this is doing really, really well, getting great reviews. Perhaps the author might be talked into by her publisher to making this a series. I'm not sure. I just know that I will definitely be picking up more books by this author. Probably not in that other series, but I know that she mentioned having to put a book on hold for this one, and so in a different genre. So I am excited to try that from her. Love this book. Highly, highly recommend. This one's a 5-star, starting off the week ding, 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 with my first 5-star. Okay, so the next book that I am going to read is going to be Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna McGuire. So this is the story of Jack and Jill, which we met in the first book. This is their story in the moors and what happened when they went through one of the portals and where they were, what they had to go through. We'll see how it all plays out. I'm very interested to learn more about these portal worlds. I will check back in with you. I'm sure this will be a short, fast read for me because I will get involved in this, just like I did with the first book, and then not want to put it down, I'll be checking back in with you very shortly. As expected, I have read through Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna McGuire very, very quickly, and I have loved this one just as much as the first book in the series. As promised, this is the story of Jack and Jill before they were Jack and Jill, when they were Jacqueline and Jillian. Talks about the backstory with their parents, how they were raised, brought up, gives a little bit more perspective in their lives, and then how they came to be in the moors with their portal. It was a very interesting look as to how that all happened, and then how each of them came to know Dr. Bleak and the Master. Very, very interesting. Very great story. It was sad. It was sad just like the first one. I don't know. There's just something so sad about the way that these kids find these portal worlds to be better than the situations that they are leaving, which is what I said in my review of the first book. But it was interesting to see why, and what about their lives growing up with their parents was so difficult, I guess, that they would be looking for this portal world to be, I guess, a better substitute for things that they weren't receiving in their home worlds. I loved this book. It shouldn't be a surprise that I am giving this a 5-star, another 5-star for the week. Ding, ding, ding. And I will definitely be picking up the next book in the series. I forget which one it is, but I think it goes back. So the first book was Eleanor West's School for Wayward Children. Is that what it was? It wasn't Evelyn, it was Eleanor, right? Anyway, so, and then the second book talked about the children and their portal worlds. And then I think we go back to the School of Wayward Children again. So I'm excited. I will definitely be picking up another book very soon. I'm not going to let this series just kind of languish on a long TBR list. I'm going to go ahead and continue. I'll slot it in somewhere, but definitely loved this. 5-star for sure. We are on a roll. We'll see if we can continue. My third book is going to be The Invisible Library from Genevieve Cogman here. This is a fantasy world where librarians jump to different, I don't know, I want to say time, spaces, different worlds to get books, which sounds very intriguing, very interesting. We'll see how I feel about this, and I will report back. I'm sure I'm not going to just blast right through this in one day, so I'll give you an update as I read through the book. I have finished The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman. This was a little bit of a slower pace than I anticipated it would be, at least for my reading pace. I thought I was going to fly right through this, and there were sections that I definitely did. The premise of this was extremely strong. So we have two librarians here. We have Irene, who is the seasoned librarian, and Kai, her apprentice, who gets sent out on a mission that at first glance seems relatively simple. Just like all librarians, they are supposed to go out and get a book from a different timeline, different world, different place, grab it and return back to the library. Normally that sounds easy enough, but they are sent to a world that is filled with chaos. And so that makes things a lot more difficult, something that Irene, who is still relatively unseasoned, hasn't done a lot of really tough missions. You know, it's a little difficult for her, plus an apprentice who that's his first mission ever to be sent on. There were a lot of supernatural creatures in here. We heard talk of werewolves, vampires, dragons, all kinds of fun fantasy elements that I would normally enjoy. And like I said, the premise was amazing. I just think the execution was lacking a little bit. I don't know if this was the first book by this author, but I've seen this happen with first books that I have been reading recently. Feels like the author just wants to jam every idea that they have into that first book. Feels like almost in an attempt to get all the ideas out on paper in case they don't get another book. And don't get to publish another book. But yeah, it was just too much with not enough development of the certain characters. For example, I wanted to know more about the werewolves. I wanted to know more about some of these crazy contraptions that were attacking them and how they were built. I wanted to know more backstory about our vampires and fae. There was not enough there for me to really want to grab up the second book in the series right away. I would say this was an average read. I'm going to give this a 3-star. It was not bad, but again, I wanted more information. If this was developed further, like if the second book added more dimension and filler into some of those elements, I would definitely be picking it up. And, you know, there's a probability that that could happen just by the way that this book ended. So we'll see. I'm keeping it on my list of series that I want to continue. Average, fun read, but didn't live up to the first 2 books of the week. The last book that I will be picking up for this week, and of course it's in the other room. It always is. I mean, we could just predict that is going to happen every single time. It is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. I have already started reading that book and will give you an update either as I read through it or finish the book for the week. Good morning, everybody. I have finished A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. Unfortunately, this book should have taken me, you know, day and a half. Actually took me 3 days to get through. This was a difficult read. I considered myself slogging through this. I think part of the problem with this one was that there were a lot of terms and names of cities in here that I just had no idea how to pronounce. And I think that I'm one of the, I am somebody that sub-vocalizes. I just learned about this, had no idea. I was watching a YouTube video from a fellow booktuber and it led me down this, you know, rabbit hole. And I'm like, I think I do that. They said most people do. And so basically I'm reading the words aloud in my head. And they even said, like, you know, people's mouths move and their larynx and everything. But it's such a minute movement that most people don't even know that they're doing it. I think that I do that when I'm reading, and because I don't know how to pronounce the words, I get tripped up on them and it takes me longer to get through certain books or passages. I think knowing that, I will go ahead and try to get the audiobook of some books ahead of time just to help me with the pronunciation of certain words. I think that will help make it a little bit of a smoother reading experience. I just kept finding reasons not to pick up the book, and that's how I know that it's just not working for me. I will also say that there weren't enough dragons. There was a lot of preparation. There was a lot of waiting around. I thought there was going to be a lot more dragons in here. This was a lot of backstory for Lady Trent and how she became this naturalist studying the dragons. So this was a lot of backstory with how she met her husband and their first expedition together and things that happened in between and after. So it was just a lot of backstory, I think. Not enough dragons, things going on that weren't related particularly to the dragons. I do really like the character of Lady Trent. However, as I thought that I would, the cat is trying to get in. If you can hear her meowing, you know, a closed door. I always talk about this, no matter what side a cat is on the side of a closed door, they want on the other side, but it better not be closed. They want in. They want access to everything, and she's mad. So anyway, there's something that happened in this book that made me incredibly sad. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about picking this up. So I'm not sure if I'm going to pick up the second book in this series. I might need to wait a little bit of time and kind of ruminate on it, see how I feel. And if I do, I will definitely pick up the audiobook to get some of the names in my mind so it makes it easier for me to read through the book. Unfortunately, I'm giving this a 2.5 star, so 2.5 star. So I'm not giving up entirely. I'm just going to put a pause on this. So that'll do it for all of the books this week. I predicted 4-5 stars. Was I really convinced that all were going to be 5? I wasn't really sure. But I went into it with the expectations and the hopes, I guess, that these were books that I really wanted to read. I had no DNFs, so that's good. Had 2 5-star reads, which is always exciting. My favorite of the week has to be Vera Wong's Tea Shop. I loved it so much. That was such a cute and happy, warm, fuzzy story. I have seen a couple of other booktubers talk about it recently. Same thing. They have loved it. So if you were in the market for something different, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of a found family type scenario, a little bit of a busybody with a great big giant heart, then I would definitely recommend that you pick up that book. I'm going to probably have it on my list of potential favorites for the year. It's going to go on there with the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Both of those gave me similar vibes. So yeah, highly recommend. If you liked that book, pick this one up. Last two books were a little bit of a letdown, I will say, but we're starting a new week. Always happy thoughts when I'm thinking about the new books on tap for the following week. Can't wait to share that with you. So I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.